All right. We are live on both Substack and TikTok. I need to move this whiteboard. Today, we are going to discuss how to take your lived experience, something that you're an expert in, something that people come to you for, how to take that and how to turn it into a digital product. In other words, digitalizing your expertise. First things first, this is for the person who knows that they have something teachable and maybe you don't know how to do it. I don't like this angle. One second. Maybe you're not sure how to do it. Maybe you haven't been taught. Maybe you're like, I don't even know if I have something teachable. So that's what we're going to get into today. Okay. It's not always about trends and virality and all of these things. And actually, I've come to find out that when it comes to selling digital offers and creating and selling digital offers, virality is not always the answer. Virality, I want you first and foremost, let's get into the audience issue. So one of the things that I see is people's always like, well, I need like a large audience to get started, right? That's a common misconception because we look at these creators with thousands of followers, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and we automatically think that the reason they're making money is because they have all of these followers, or we see a viral piece of content and we assume that they have made a ton of money off of this viral piece of content. And the truth is that that's just not always true. So this is why we're not chasing virality. We're chasing something that's going to allow us to have a system that is structured and repeatable and that sells regardless of the amount of followers that we have. I can be the first one to tell you that 1 million views in a month does not equal the leads and the sales that you might think that it does, because there have been times where I've hit 1 million views and I didn't really have anything to show for it. And so I had to go back, I had to tweak the system and be like, okay, what do I need to do so that next time that happens, I can capitalize on it, right? And so this is where digitalizing your expertise comes in. So let me see. I don't know if you guys can see that on TikTok. Let me move this little thing up. Okay. So this is where digitalizing your expertise comes in. So the first thing that I want to break down is, what does it mean to digitalize? What is that? So when you digitalize something, that is your digital product. When you think about it, majority of what we do these days are digital. We're always doing something digital. Even when you think about your bank, right? When you think about how you pay, if you have an iPhone and you go out to the store and you buy something, I'm using my iPhone. You have your iPhone and you go out to the store and you're like, okay, I'm going to make a purchase. Oh man, I forgot my wallet. You have a digital wallet, right? That is something that it just exists in the digital space, the digital device, okay? Even your debit card, that tap feature is digital. So we're in a digital world. We're in a world where to digitalize something is not that crazy. Banks are doing it. Starbucks does it. Everybody has some form of a digital offer. Okay, so your bank has a digital offer in terms of a digital debit card that allows you to purchase things with your cell phone. That's a digital offer. What is the bank's expertise? The bank's expertise is holding your money. So they hold your money and then they've digitalized that for you so that you can actually go and pay for things with your cell phone if you don't have cash on you. That's an expertise that they have that's been digitalized. So when you think about yourself, right? What expertise do you have that you can turn digital? What does digital look like? Digital would be digital product. So when we think of a digital product, what are some digital products? We have guides or ebooks. Okay. That is a form of a digital product. We have, do you see me over here? You can see me over here. We have guides or ebooks. We have podcasts. There are such things as paid podcasts. I've seen them. I plan on doing one, but let's say you're really good at talking and you're like, I choke up on camera. And this is what I love about this is there's no one way to do this. Some people are great on video, some people are great through writing, which is where ebooks come in. Some people are just great talkers, but they don't like to be looked at. Okay? So, you have paid podcasts now. If you're like, I have something to say and, people can get a lot of value through my word without me having to put myself together and show up, you can sell a paid podcast, a paid audio series, something like that. You have courses. You have coaching. You have workshops. You have templates. Okay, so when you think about digitalize, right? And like I gave you the bank example, we're in a world where everybody is digitalizing their expertise to some degree. When you think about digitalizing, these are some of the ways that you can digitalize it. So if you're a writer, a guide, an ebook, right? Teaching what you know through writing. You can even do a paid email series. I've bought those. And you like what a paid email series is each day you give them another step to do, right? So I've purchased one and I have one myself for offers, right? For like helping entrepreneurs create their offers, right? It's a 5-day series. By the end of 5 days you'll have an offer created, but it's all delivered through email. And there's a tangible result at the end, okay? My expertise is in offer creation. So ebooks, guides, podcasts, we went over that. Courses, what is a course? A course is something that is multiple modules long and walks you through a step by step process, right? So we'll get into expertise in a second, but a course is going to take you from, okay, point A, point B, point C, so on and so forth. You're going to walk them through the process. So, for example, I have a course called Digitalize Your Expertise. And what that does is it walks you through a step by step process, identifying your sellable offer, creating the digital product, designing the digital product in Canva, setting up your storefront so that you can sell the product, right? Learning story led sales techniques so that you can sell the product on repeat, how to sell on video, how to sell off video, different things like that. So there's a step by step process that's broken down into multiple videos. That's in courses. You know what? I should have put workshops and masterclass. Coaching. Coaching is you helping somebody achieve a result, right? Coaching is your more expensive digital product, right? This is your higher price point digital product because they have access to you. So this can look like a group coaching program. You have X amount of people in a class, you meet on Zoom, you walk them through things, they get to individually ask questions, you coach them through whatever issue they're having, you coach them into whatever they need, right? That's still a digital product. That's still digital. You can also do one-on-one coaching. Again, you can meet via Zoom, via video. You can charge high ticket prices, $3, $4,000, $5,000, and meet with them over an extended period of time as long as the transformation is clear, right? So that would be your coaching things, workshops or master classes. So a workshop is, well, and similar to a master class, you are the teacher. You are the master, right? So you get on video, you can put together a presentation, some slides, and you are teaching people how to do something. You are the master of what you are doing. You are walking them through a step by step process. But instead of it being like a course where it's multiple videos and multiple modules, you're doing it in one 60 to 90-minute session. Okay. You're teaching them whatever your expertise is. You're teaching them that in a 60 to 90-minute session. And then we have templates. Templates are on the lower end of pricing, but let's say you are great at email marketing. Let's say you are like, I'm an email marketing expert, right? You can sell templates. You can sell, you know, templates to maybe a funnel that you created that you were able to convert high ticket clients on, or that got you X amount of sales or whatever it is, right? You can take those templates, you blank out what they need to fill in, and then you sell those. So these are all of the ways, or not even all, these are a handful of the ways that you can digitalize your expertise. And whenever you think, well, I don't really know my expertise, or I don't really know how to digitalize, I want you to remember that everybody is doing it. The banks have digitalized their access to your money with Apple Pay, with I don't know I think Samsung Wallet is the other one, right? But your debit card is on your phone, and they've digitalized their expertise. Their expertise is holding your money. So let's get into expertise. And you know what? Hold on, let me erase this because we're gonna have a whole thing. Oh my gosh, I thought it was gonna fall. 1 second. Okay. So what are what can be an expertise? What are some things that you can teach? So I'll tell you how I got started. First things first, when I started selling my first product, my sales, I could run a full cycle sales system and I knew how to write. I've always loved writing. Okay. When I was in fifth grade, we had to do these persuasive essays. I loved the persuasive essays. I was like, hell yeah, let's get to writing. Let's convince people of some stuff. Right. So I've always liked to write. And my sales background, my corporate sales background, gave me my first digital product. So this was back in 2019. I was postpartum. My baby was like 3 weeks old, and I really wanted to figure out how to make some extra money. And it wasn't because my job wasn't like paying enough. It was because I just didn't want to go back to corporate. I wanted to be in charge of my time. I had a good job, but I wanted to be in charge of my time. So I was like, okay, what can I do? So I made a list. So if you're watching right now and you're like, I don't know what my expertise is, I want you to make a list and I want you to categorize it in three different ways. I want you to make a list of your skills. I want you to make a list of life experiences that you've had that you were able to overcome. And then I want you to make a list of things that people maybe ask you for. Okay? So, expertise. Like I said, I got started in corporate sales. I liked writing, so I took my corporate sales experience and I turned it into an ebook. And from that ebook, I sold it on Facebook to friends and family. I had just started getting into maybe some of the entrepreneur groups and things like that. I was trying to figure out like this online business space. I didn't know digital products had a name at the time. I had just really heard of ebooks and courses. I didn't know they had a category that they were I didn't know none of that. Okay. I was like, okay, I like I like this, right? So I took that and I wrote an ebook, corporate sales. And it taught business owners how to do a full sales cycle, right? From prospecting to discovery meeting to close and then to referral, to getting referrals. And so that was the first thing I ever sold. Did it make me rich? No, but it opened a door. And what it did mentally is it opened a door for me to realize, hey, I can take something that I know and I can turn around and sell it for money. I can take a skill that I have and sell it for money. So your expertise, oh, I'm so paranoid my thing is going to fall when I erase. Your expertise can be skills, experiences, or something people ask you. What people ask you. Okay. Those are different expertises, like categories, right? So skills. Sales is a skill. Writing is a skill. God dang, that's ugly. Writing is a skill. Budgeting, that's a skill. Okay. And some of these can overlap. Budgeting, that's a skill, right? You have a skill in budgeting. You're like, hey, I can make a dollar stretch 2 weeks, right? Now, once you're selling digital products, you shouldn't have to do that. But let's say you have a budgeting skill, right? So sales, writing, budgeting. Um, we can have a skill in bartending. Hold on, y'all. This is sketchy. That's super sketchy. Okay, there we go. Bartending, leadership, right? These are different skills. You want to find skills that people want to pay for. Hairstyling, hair, that's a skill. Okay. So start to write out some of the skills that you have. I don't know if y'all can see that on Substack. Let me turn this. There we go. Start to write out some of the skills that you have. Okay. So you're writing out your skills, right? Then you have experiences. What are some experiences that you overcame? So I have a couple products that came from experiences, right? Oh, let me add a skill. Email. Thinking of my own stuff. Email marketing, that's a skill. That's a skill that I learned, and that was the first time I turned my email marketing into a course. That was the first time I ever truly experienced passive income because I remember I had made a post about this course on Facebook again. I had made a post I bought an email marketing course that I launched, and I launched it at like a just a low price, like kind of putting feelers out and testing it. I logged off. I went to a wedding. This was in 2021. I went to a wedding, my husband's friend's wedding, and I'm like living life, dancing, drinking Corona, whatever, right? I'm like enjoying myself. And we get back to the hotel room after the wedding, and I saw that I had made 2 sales. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, you could put something out there. Like this, the sales ebook taught me I can get paid for my skills, right? That's what the sales ebook taught me. My email marketing course, however, taught me I can put something out there and I can make money while I'm not actively online. Because I get back to the hotel room, I made $222 while I was dancing and having a couple drinks, right? So I thought that was really cool. So, anyways, so those are 2 that I had created off of skills. Now, when we get into experiences, think about experiences that you overcame. Okay. These sell more than people realize. People have this misconception that because they've been through something, just because they've been through something, like it's not like a sellable process, right? Like, oh well, I went through XYZ, but I don't think people will buy people would buy that, right? It depends on how you package it. If you want to sell an experience, you have to package the transformation. You don't want to sell from the place that is the hardest part of, your experience, that is the saddest or the most struggle friendly or whatever, right? You want to sell from the transformative place. You want to sell from this is what I got out of. This is who I became after. Okay? You want to sell from that identity, the after identity. Because what you're doing when you sell it like that, an experience, is you're giving people a sense of hope. And when you give them a sense of hope, then people are like, okay, there is a way out of this. Because you have to remember, when you're in certain experiences, it feels like forever. And it feels like you're never going to make it out sometimes. And it feels like, what is the point of all of this? And you know what I mean? The brain starts to really run rampant if we're not in control of it. So if you're going to sell an experience and you're going to put that into a digital offer, then you need to be sure that when you sell the experience, you're selling the transformation. So for example, some experiences, postpartum, that's an experience. Let's see, divorce, travel is an experience, right? Living abroad. Oops, abroad. Starting a business or scaling a business, scaling business. Right? These are different experiences that we have. And so one of the examples that I like to give too is, well, first, let me say this. Even if you're already an entrepreneur, even if you already have a hands-on business, let's say you're a baker, you're a photographer, you're a realtor, something like that. Let's say you're a realtor. And let's say you have figured out a system in your real estate business that has allowed you to scale. Excuse me. It's made you, a top performer. I don't know the ins and outs of real estate, but it's made you a top performer. You're able to close X amount of houses, right? Something like that. You can take that experience and you can position it to other realtors. You can turn that into a masterclass, into a course, into an ebook, right? You could take the real estate experience and you can turn that into a digital offer to sell. So now you're selling houses and making your commission off of houses, but on the back end, you're also selling a digital product or digital products that allow, one, you're helping others, and two, it allows you to diversify your income. Okay. And that's what I'm big on. We hear the thing like seven income streams, is what millionaires have. And we need to, figure out one and stuff. When you take a digital product, you can already package it multiple ways. You can package a transformation multiple ways. So let's say you are a realtor and you are in like the scaling your business, niche, and you start talking about that. And that would be considered in the wealth niche. You're teaching money to up and coming realtors. Well, you can have, an ebook at like an entry starting point, $27, something like that, right? $17. Then you can up it. You can be like, okay, and I also have like, maybe a 90-minute masterclass where you go a little bit more in depth and you're selling that for $97. And then maybe you open up a coaching, one-on-one or a live workshop or something like that. And you're selling that closer to like, $1,000+, right? Because now they have access to you. Those are ways that you can take the one experience and diversify it into from different angles. Okay. So starting scaling your business. That's another one. Um, what was I going to say? I already wrote these. Divorce, travel, living abroad, starting your business. Same thing. The example I gave for real estate, you can use that for just about any business. You can use that for hair. You can use that for photography. You can use that for baking. You can use that esthetician, eyebrows, all of those. It's the same type of concept. Your experience doesn't always have to be life experiences. It can be business experiences. It can be, experience that you overcame in business or, whatever it is. I have done, a spiritual thing. That's the other one. I have done a postpartum and a spiritual one. When I went through one of the layers of the several layers of a spiritual awakening, I had discovered and in my mind, I developed it. Okay. In my mind, I developed it. I know it exists, but hear me out. I had discovered something called intuitive writing, which was, being able to write in a state that kind of bypasses the conscious brain and taps into the subconscious so that we can rewire beliefs. This is a process that I use in my coaching containers and my private containers and things like that when someone is stuck in a loop, someone's stuck in an identity loop. And I use it on myself. But I had taken that experience and I turned that into a toolkit. A toolkit is kind of like a course. The way that I had mine structured is like a course. So I turned that into a little bit of a toolkit or a mini course, whatever you want to call it, right? And was able to sell that to people who were also stuck in their own loops. And so again, when you speak to the transformation of that is you're going to finally be able to make a decision and move forward, right? When we get in these identity loops, we stay stuck in indecisiveness. And indecisiveness is why we can't move forward. This is why we feel stuck all the time. The stuckness just comes from not making a decision. And when you're not making a decision because you don't trust your decision. Once you trust your decision, the decision is easy to make. You're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do and it's gonna work. And then that's that. You're in the law of assumption. You're in the law of, attraction. You're taking the action because you're doing the work. You're assuming that everything that you're doing is gonna work, right? But you have to bypass the subconscious or you have to bypass the conscious and rewire that subconscious to be able to get in there. So, anyways, so if you've had a spiritual practice that you've done, if you have something like that you have been able to, overcome or that's helped you through something and you can speak to the transformation, you can turn that into a product. This is where some of them start to overlap from skills and expertise. Okay. So when we think about starting and scaling a biz, right? If we go back to our realtor example, there's an experience that she had in starting and scaling a business, but then she also has skills that allowed this to happen, right? So in her skills, maybe she talks a little bit of budgeting. Maybe she talks about the leadership that she had, definitely sales, right? Potentially some writing, some email marketing. What is your avenue? What is your skills avenue when you're talking about an experience? What skill did you develop? This is for like my business people, my business owner, my business niche people, right? So that's where things can overlap. Okay. Things can overlap like that, where it's an experience. You also have a skill in that. And then, you can be in both of those at once and turn that into a digital product. You can also take that and turn it into a couple digital products. Okay. For example, spirituality is still very much blended into my business, but the skills that I teach are writing, sales, email marketing, digital offer creation, right? Those are in the skills. But then the experience is going to be scaling your business, a little bit of a spiritual experience. You see what I mean? So things do start to overlap. Hey, Danielle, thanks for hopping on. Good to see you. So, skills experience, what people ask you. This is such a big one that I feel like people overlook. Okay. I don't know what to create. I don't know what my offer is. I want you to think about the things that people ask you. What do they ask you for? Do they ask you for help organizing? I'll ask anybody for help organizing. Okay. I hate it. Somebody else could do it. Somebody else could do it. Organizing. Homeschooling tips, right? Do people ask you, whoops, I can't spell. Oh, hold on, y'all. Homeschooling. Do people ask you how to get started in homeschooling? Homeschooling resources, how to manage your time as a homeschool mom, how to manage your time as a mompreneur who homeschools her children, right? Different things like that. So what are people asking you about? Are they asking you for relationship advice? Do they ask you how to overcome hard times in marriage? Do they ask you dating advice, right? How to not get attached after the first date, right? Whatever it is, right? Think about that too. What do people come to you for? Because when you start to think about what people come to you for, you start to realize, hey, everybody else already sees me as the expert here. The only person not seeing it is me, right? Once you start to think of it like that, what people are asking you, then you're like, actually, I am the expert in this. This is my expertise, right? And so then we're going to turn it digital. We're going to digitalize it. Let's see. I'm not talking about that today. I got all my notes, but sometimes I like to skip around. Let's talk about well, first let's get into the top niches, I'll call it. So we have wealth, which is money. Health, which is essentially how you feel, feelings. And relationships. Oops. Which is connections. Okay. And I'm going to go sub niche can be like then there's sub niches, right? So, like, I have a sub niche in spirituality, for example. Okay. So, sub niches. So, these three right here health, wealth, and relationships. Those are your top three niches. Those are always the ones that sell the best, right? Health, wealth, relationships. I got to pay attention over here because I'm only looking over there. Health, relationships. So, wealth is going to be your money. Are you teaching people how to make money? And some of these will overlap, and I'll explain that right now. Are you teaching people how to make money? So, budgeting, that is, I'm going to put a W. Budgeting. Leadership can fall into the wealth niche. It can also fall into the relationship niche. That's a relationship with yourself. That's a relationship with the people that you are leading, right? Email marketing, that's a wealth. If you're doing email to make money, sales, wealth. Writing, writing is tricky. Writing can be wealth if you're writing, sales pages and things like that that convert for income. Writing can also be um relationship to self, and it can be health, like how you feel about yourself, right? So for example, the example I gave you earlier about intuitive writing, that would be more like an inward thing, right? So that strengthens the relationship with self. So excuse me, some would argue that it's also health because it's personal development. So some of these will overlap, but when you can pick a clear lane in the top 3 and then add subcategories, you'll be able to move through it a little bit easier. Postpartum, that is health. Divorce, relationships. Travel. I had a conversation with a friend who was in the travel niche, and her and I, y'all gonna have to tell me in the comments what you think because her and I are on different pages here. I personally think that travel, based on what she has told me about all of the insights that she has gained and all of the, experiences and just awareness with self that she's had, I personally think that travel can fall into like the relationship niche, but the relationship with self. Okay. That's what I think. She said no. Um, Living abroad, same thing. It would depend on how. So that can also be relationship, health, or wealth, depending on how you position it, right? Why are we living abroad? Is it from a financial standpoint, because we can save money? Is it from a health standpoint because there is better, quality of life, right? Different things like that. That just depends. That depends on your angle. So what I want you to do for today is make a list of, like I said, make a list of what you know in these 3 categories. So skills, experiences, and what people ask you, right? Make a list. As you make your list, start to zone in on what you would feel confident teaching. What is something that you could talk about over and over again, right? What is something that if somebody asked you, "Can you tell me about this?" you would not hesitate to talk about. You would be like, "Absolutely, like, let me, I can sit down and explain this to you." Okay. So think about that because sometimes we have skills or experiences, but we don't necessarily feel confident in teaching it. We don't feel confident in being able to, articulate it the best way or something like that. And if that's the case, then you need to ask yourself this: is this something that I could learn to articulate? Because sometimes it's very important to us and we just have to learn to articulate it. So if that's the case, then go for it. If it's not something that you're willing to learn to articulate, I would skip it for now. Because what's going to happen from a psychological standpoint is if you are not articulating it well, you're going to convince yourself that you're not the expert in this. And that's the whole point, is to be the expert. You're digitalizing your expertise. Okay. So that is a little breakdown of what I have for you today on how to take your experience, your skills, and your expertise into and turn it into a digital offer. Like I said, the world is digital. Your bank is digital. Yes, you can walk into a branch, but the way their expertise is given to you is through, um let's see, what if you are well versed on multiple experiences and many skills that you can share, or people come to you as a one-stop shop? That's a good question. So what I would say is I would ask if there's any overlap in them. So when you think about like the several skills that you can share, or, the things that people come to you for, there's two things. Is there an overlap to them to where they could be, positioned together to where if somebody came to, like, let's say your stand store, it would make sense why all of that is there? If not, what is the one that you feel the most confident in teaching? And then you can do a little market research and go on like TikTok or Pinterest, or Google, and see which one people are searching for the most. Because once you do that, you can see the buyer language, and then you can also see which ones people are looking for, and then that can be your starting point. And then as you get really good at that, then you can branch out into the other experiences and skills that you have. Um, if they don't all coincide with one another. Let me see. So anyways, yeah, make a list. As you make your list, um, separate them: skills, experience, what people ask you, what people want to know. Like I told Danielle, you can take that and go and do a little market research, because the idea here is if you're going to digitalize your expertise, obviously you want to get paid quickly, right? And then expand later. So find out if you're stuck between different ones, find out the one that people want first and start there. And then as you become more known and things like that, then you can branch out into like the different teachings and things like that. But definitely make a list. Ask yourself which one you feel the most confident in talking about. Ask yourself which one you want to be the starting expert on, and you can pivot later. I've pivoted so many times. You can always pivot. Um, but yeah, and if this is something you want deeper work on, there are two ways that I can help you. If you click on my link in bio to my stand store, you will see a course that is titled Digitalize Your Expertise. That walks more in depth into everything that we just went through today. It is self-paced, it is self-structured. Not only do I walk you through how to like extract your skill and your experience and all of that, but then I take you through the tech process. So how to create the offer in Canva, how to set it up in Stand Store, how to set up a small email funnel to nurture on the back end, and then ways to sell that product using Pinterest and using TikTok. So that is all inside of Digitalize Your Expertise. If you're like, that sounds good, I want some high level support, I'm ready to just turn this into a hierarchy, then the Empress Authority is my signature coaching program that is available also via the link in bio. There is a small questionnaire that you would fill out before enrolling. That our first call will be on I'm sorry, our next call will be on February 5th. So if you want to come in and have one-on-one coaching support, or I'm sorry, group coaching support, where you can come and, one-on-one is a different process, where you can come and ask questions and, submit for offer feedback and different things like that, go through some of the mindset processes of becoming an expert and stuff, you can enroll in that. You would be with me for 6 months. I'd love to have you in there. So again, that is at the link in bio too. And with that being said, I will talk to all of you tomorrow and we will be kind of rehashing the same topic. All right. Bye, everybody.